Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Inferno. Joined by Bryce and Rob. I am Brad Menendez, one of the fantastic trio. We were down a man last week. We were filled in admirably by Jacob, but we have Mr. Sullivan back. How are you, sir? Welcome back. We missed you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm happy to be back. I got to spend some time with my family and enjoy what Canadians like to call Thanksgiving in early October. So I appreciate the time off.
Well, happy belated Thanksgiving. Hey.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Bryce, how are you, sir?
I'm always good. How are you, Brad?
It's very fitting with the background that you have to say I'm always good.
Always.
It's always 5 o'clock somewhere, right? It's been a long week. We're in the thick of things, and it's been another crazy week. From the fantasy landscape, it seems like the hits keep on coming. But we're still plodding along. The league's still going, so I see it as a win-win. Welcome everybody that is joining us either on Facebook or YouTube or listening to the stream after the fact. We do this weekly. Wednesday nights we talk redraft. We help you with your start sits or any other questions you may have, as well as try to help you think of players that might be successful for you. Ask your questions in the chats. I'm monitoring those, and as they come in, one of the few shows that will answer your questions live while we're doing it, as they say on the Four Letter Network. We'll do it live. So with that being said, let's get to some news and notes. Mr. Sullivan, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, sir. I'll start off in Dallas. And Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott unfortunately was lost for the season on Sunday. Compound fracture and a dislocated ankle. So my question to you both, and I'll start with you, Bryce, is what do you feel the fantasy impact is for the Cowboys without Dak for the rest of the season?
That's a good question because obviously I think everybody's value goes down a little bit, but the Dallas Cowboys were prepared for this. I mean, Andy Dalton as your backup quarterback is not a terrible situation at all. He's always had receivers produce under him, and I still like the value of everybody on that team. So I feel a little good having some of those running or some of those wide receivers. If anything, I think it maybe boost Zeke Elliott's value a little bit. They're going to have to lean on that run game a little more. Andy Dalton's not as good of a quarterback as Dak. But, overall, the main thing to me was trying to replace that quarterback. So I drafted Dak a lot, and especially redraft leagues. He fell to me, and he is producing so well. I think he was QB1 or number 2 so far until his injury. But a question I feel like we're going to get a lot of, or a lot of people are wondering, is what do I do if that was my main guy and I don't like my backup? I think you got to go after Andy Dalton because the guys on the waiver wire probably are not going to produce as high as him. You might see a few. I've seen Minshew on the waiver wire a few times, but you're seeing guys like Daniel Jones and whoever the Redskins quarterback is right now. So that's kind of what I'm leading on with this Dak injury. Brad, what are your thoughts?
The nice thing is that Dalton can easily slide in and still be, 80% of what Dak was fantasy-wise. He's efficient. The thing that was tough when you look at Dalton and Cincy was he never had this type of weaponry. He never had this type of offensive line. I mean, I know that they're banged up, but he just never had the support around him to really be as successful. I mean, even during the peak Marvin Lewis time where they were hitting the playoffs every year, he didn't have this. So I think we're going to see some really solid Andy Dalton for the rest of the season. I could easily see him working his way into having another opportunity for a starting role somewhere if he plays to his potential, because he's never been a guy that throws the ball all over the field to the point to where he's like the gunslinger where he's just going to do dumb things and throw a ton of interceptions. Especially at this point in his career, I think he'll be smart with the ball. I like this for a guy like Dalton Schultz because Andy Dalton never really had a good tight end other than Rick did remind me on our waiver wire video. He had Tyler Eifert when Tyler Eifert was his healthiest. And when he did have a tight end, he was successful. So I think this still could keep good value to all these players. We saw, obviously, Dalton like Gallup. He targeted him a bit. I think Schultz could, in time, get a little bump from him. So I'm not out. I definitely would, if I'm in a pinch, I will go after Dalton. And when it comes to if I'm waiver priority and it's high and I need a quarterback, I'd be comfortable doing it on Dalton. This offense is still high-powered. If I'm doing fab, I've watched guys already today pick up Dalton, and they've spent $400 or $500 of their $1,000 budget on him. So I don't know that I'd go that high, but it looks like you'll have to if you want him. I think he's definitely a smart buy at this point in redraft if you need a QB1, because most weeks he's probably a back-end QB1 at the minimum with this offense. So we do have a few questions that come in. So before we get to the next piece of news, we got a fun question. Our one of our greatest fans, Josh Whedon over on YouTube, says, "Merry Canuck Turkey Day." You guys do celebrate with turkey, don't you, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, so we're really not that different than you find folks down south of my border, I should say. Turkey, stuffing, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. I think we're pretty much similar in that aspects. So yeah, we do.
And you're thankful for what? What is it that you're celebrating on that day?
Well, first and foremost, in this crazy year, I'm thankful for my health and the health of my family and those that I love. I'm very thankful for this. To be honest, this is a great escape from the daily grind, and being a part of this team, as I have for the last few years, has been exceptional. And I don't know, man. I'm just thankful the sun comes up every day in the east. So life is good.
I dig it. So there you go, Josh. That's the answer to your question. We have Brian over on YouTube asking, who should you throw in your flex spot? He's got Debo, Devonta Freeman, or Deontay Johnson. Bryce, who's your flex play?
Deontay. I'm still going Deontay Johnson.
Okay, Mr. Sullivan.
Even
Debo scares me. Doesn't look like he's all the way back. Deontay Johnson's had a few different injuries, and I thought Freeman looked good last time out. So I'm with Bryce. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson, but I'm going to watch his health, and if he can't go, then I'm going to put Freeman in there pretty comfortably.
Oh, so Washington is facing the Giants. Man, I'd consider throwing Devonta in that flex.
They've been pretty good against the run as a whole.
Their front seven's the real deal.
I guess my only fear with Johnson, and I don't want it to be a fear, is Claypool with that big game. Do they look him a little bit more this week? And I really tend to not be one of those guys that jumps on he had a big week, he's probably going to be the man now. I doubt it, but yeah, I'd probably lean Deontay Johnson, but Devonta Freeman would be a close second. Debo, he still looks like he's trying to work back into football shape after being out for a while. So I wouldn't be pumping Debo in unless you really need to. Questions are coming hot and heavy. All right, so Tacky T says, is Dearness Johnson a hold, Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, if you haven't watched the waiver wire video that Rick and Brad did this week, I suggest that you do. Rick's point's incredibly valid. This dude is one injury away from being the number one running back on a run-heavy team. So, yeah, hold him. If you have the roster spot for him, absolutely hold him. He's a lottery ticket if Hunt goes down before Chubb comes back. Bryce?
Yeah, absolutely. When he gets, the touches that he gets, he looks good. So I would hold him if you got, it's in redraft leagues, you might not get a lot of roster spots. There might be people worth having, but if you're in a deeper league, I would definitely be holding on to him. Brad?
Yeah, I probably would too, just because the running back market is so scarce right now. If you have a glimmer of hope, you got to take it. And Johnson is a glimmer of hope because he can still be successful for a few weeks. All right, Seb over on YouTube wants to know, will McCaffrey be limited by Mike Davis's success? Bryce?
I don't think he won't be limited. I think if anything, it might improve his value because as an owner, in redraft, it might not be the best to see Mike Davis' success. Geez. But when you are in a dynasty league or even a keeper league, you don't want McCaffrey touching the ball as much as he did because you already saw what happened. You almost had to think that he was going to get injured if he got close to the volume he did last year. So to me, it kind of relieves some stress of him getting too many touches. Even when they're down, up, it doesn't matter. That guy can do everything. So I don't think it limits him. If anything, I think it makes his touches more efficient. Sully?
I have sort of two answers to it. I think it does limit him because I think it allows the Panthers to take their time and really ensure that he's 100% coming back. So that might cost him an extra week. So it's McCaffrey, so that's potentially 30 fantasy points. When he does return, I think it somewhat limits him. I still see Mike Davis getting 6 to 8 touches weekly. He's earned it. And then what he does with those 6 to 8, I believe, dictates what he does going forward. The Panthers are right in the thick of the playoffs, which is weird. So you want CMC back, but you also want him back at 100%. So I think this is a really good problem for Carolina to have all of a sudden. Their receivers seem to be hitting. Their quarterback's playing fantastic. Their defense stinks, but they're scoring points. So long-winded answer is I think it limits him, but he's still elite top 3-4 running back regardless. Brad?
Mike Davis's success just makes me think they're not going to rush him back until he's 100%. So, that stinks, but when he comes back, he should be ready to roll, and I would anticipate him, getting a good workload. So, our boy Jason over on YouTube says, who is the tight end 1 in Tampa? He thinks Brate could be taking over Sully.
He's right. It's Cameron Brate. Howard's gone for the season. Gronk's a really good blocker. It's Cameron Brate time in Tampa.
Bryce.
Yeah, it's sad to see, but it looks like, Gronk just doesn't look like he used. I think that's why he retired. I think he knew that. You saw it in his last couple years with New England. He was only kind of used maybe in more clutch situations. I wouldn't be surprised to see that again this year, kind of saving for important downs. I would much rather have Cameron Brate.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize. Plaque. Over on YouTube asks, should I trade Aaron Jones for DK? Bryce.
No, I would not. In redraft, there's so many. In redraft, especially not just because of how thin the running backs are right now with all these injuries. It seems like people are scurrying every week to go pick up people on waiver wires. Luckily for me, I've held on to these Madison shares thinking one day Dalvin's going to miss a game. Right now, it seems like he's going to miss this next game. DK Metcalf is a beast, but he is so dependent on his touchdowns. You got to look. He's only getting 4 receptions in most of his games. I think one game he has 6. If he doesn't get a touchdown, those stats dramatically decrease. And Aaron Jones is balling out every single game like I thought he was going to. So I'm going to hold on to Aaron Jones with how the season's going. Sully?
I should have had crow for Thanksgiving and not turkey because here's where I eat it. And I was 100% wrong about Aaron Jones this year. He looks fantastic, and he looks like he's going to continue it. I'm the guy that was screaming from the rooftops that he's not going to score 19 touchdowns again like he did last year. Well, he's on pace for 24 this year, so we'll see what happens. I'm with Bryce. You do not make this trade. However, if this is somehow a dynasty question, you absolutely make this trade. Brad?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dynasty is much different. I'm holding on Aaron Jones just because running back is such a premium, especially this year. I mean, with so many going down. So Aaron Jones, like if you're trading Aaron Jones for a receiver, like it better be a receiver and something else. Yeah. Very high end, especially with it being DK, another high end type piece. But give me one elite guy over anyone else. So Jaws wants to know, I have Hunt and hold Deontay Johnson too. It might be hard to hold him with all the people coming off IR. Rather have him, Duke Johnson, or Brian Hill. So Deontay Johnson or Duke Johnson or Brian Hill. Bryce.
I'm still going to hold on to Dearness. Those other guys aren't. Even if they got in a situation where they could play, then you just have to. That's almost what you're hoping for. I would rather have the guy that's produced and the amount of touches that he's getting. Chubb's going to be gone for a while. If anything happens to Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson's stock goes way up, and then redraft, that's huge. So I'm going to keep him. Sully?
Yeah, I think I agree with one little asterisk on it. If you're a team that needs to win and you're hurting bad at running back and you need to actually put one of those three in your lineup, probably going to go with Duke because I think he can, on a game-to-game basis, have a bit of a role where he can get you a few fantasy points. I don't know if Ernest is going to do that week in, week out. 100% agree, though. If Hunt goes down, Johnson's awesome. And then go grab, who's the other guy? Hilliard? Go grab him too.
Yeah.
Because something's going to happen there. But yeah, no, Brian Hill's easily the bottom of the list for me on these. So if I was going to rank them right now, I'd probably go Duke, Ernest, and then Hill. But yeah, you got to really know your roster to fully answer that one.
Duke is by far the most talented of the three, but for some reason it never seems to be working for him on a regular basis. So I don't know. I mean, you have Hunt already, so I'd probably do Duke Johnson just so I have kind of spaced out shares of running backs on different teams. But I say that Duke probably won't produce and will look ridiculous. So
new staff, we never know though, right?
Yeah, in Romeo we trust, right? So Connor Nero on YouTube says, should I trade Mike Evans for Tyree Hill in a full PPR? Right, Sully.
Yep, do it because number one, Evans is hurt, and number two, Tyreek Hill is insane. I do that all day. Absolutely. Bryce?
Yeah, again, I think Mike Evans is kind of similar to DK Metcalf where he's super touchdown dependent. It seems like Tampa Bay gets – I don't understand how Tom Brady gets to the 1 yard line so much. It seems like there's always penalties in the end zone or something. But they've been throwing a lot of fade routes or slant routes to Mike Evans I think in one game at one point until the fourth quarter, Mike Evans had 2 receptions for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they're using him in the red zone like I thought they would. He always uses the biggest body guy in the red zone. But still, Tyreek Hill just gets you. I mean, he could not score a touchdown and still get you 20 points. So I'm going to go with that guy that's getting more targets and more receptions.
Yeah, dynasty or redraft, it's Tyreek Hill for me easily. Oh, and our boy Josh says my questions are always dynasty questions for me. So, fun fact. Okay, so Plex says my team right now is Kyler Murray, James Robinson, CEH, Thielen, Allen Robinson, Aaron Jones, Jimmy Graham, and he's got Josh Jacobs and McCaffrey on his bench. Should he be trying to target anybody? I mean, a better tight end, maybe. Yeah. I'm not a big Jimmy Graham.
Who is his tight end?
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that,
who is his running backs right now with Jacobs and CMC on the bench?
So Jacobs and CMC are obviously where they're at. CEH, James Robinson, and Aaron Jones. So,
holy team!
Oh my god!
Yeah, tight end is really the only thing I think you could use an upgrade at.
Yeah, I would be looking at I'm assuming this is dynasty because it'd be hard to draft all those players. I would be looking to try and go get Jonnu Smith. I think that dude's got a bright future. Him or Noah Fant, because your tight end position is obviously your weakest and it's old. You might be able to get James Robinson and add a piece or just sell one of your running backs. But I'd be looking to try and get Jonnu Smith however you can. That's definitely an area I'd be addressing.
All right, so Mr. Sullivan, any other thoughts?
No, other than I'd probably use James Robinson as my bait because I think he's the least clear future of those guys. And everybody needs a running back, so somebody's going to give you something good for him right now. I think even with a 10-point game last week, I think he's still a top 10 running back. So that's who I would be dangling.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Jonathan Whitaker asked, should I start Deontay Johnson or DJ Shark if they're both playing? So which one would you take, Mr. Sullivan?
Well, you guys didn't like my DJ Shark slight from afar last week. I'll do it up close and personal this week. The man's had 4 good games in his career. Deontay Johnson, if healthy, is my start this week. Bryce?
Yeah, I still got to go. I like DJ Shark, but I think he's going to keep developing, and I think he's shown flashes of being a really good receiver in the future. But until then, I'm going to go with the guy I think gets more volume and more targets, and that's Deontay Johnson.
He's facing the Lions this week. DJ Shark all day, baby. They're going to toast Detroit.
He is hurt.
Keelan Cole, baby.
I like Keelan Cole, which is always the most annoying thing because I liked him a lot, and they just didn't do anything with him. I'm like, stupid. All right, so all right, over on Facebook. All right, guys, need some help. I'm in a redraft league with my wife's family. I hope you're tearing it up. All right, through 5 weeks, I have the most points scored against me, and the fourth most points scored. And he's 0-5. What should I do? Mail it in or try to come back from the ashes? Well, I think in a redraft, you always have to go for it, right? I mean, go big,
Yeah.
baby. Just do something big to try to get you over the hump.
Yeah, so do whatever you have to do to win. If for some reason you're playing your wife in that league and you haven't yet, don't win that week, but win every other week you can. Always go for it.
Drop the hammer. No. Yeah, I always kind of look at a redraft. When I do redrafts, there's no next year. Like, you got to go big, man. What do you think, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see the roster because I see, when people have 0-5 records and they're fourth, most points scored again could obviously super unlucky. A lot of time you got a lot of boom and bust players that might have made two of your weeks look really, really good, and the others maybe not so much. So you got to do what you can. So.
All right. So Brian over on YouTube asked, do I pick up? I'm assuming it's Austin Hooper off waivers and play him over Zach Ertz in a full PPR. It seems like Baker's starting to trust Hooper more. They seem to be developing something there. Bryce, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. Those are two guys I really steered clear of in a lot of leagues. I would probably have to do a little bit of research and see who's getting targeted the most, and I'd probably go based off of that information, to be honest. So I would look and see who gets the most targets. Probably in the last 3 games, I would look at kind of, and then kind of go from there. If you guys pull up the stats, you could answer them a little better, but that's exactly what I would do. Sully?
Hooper is coming on. I'm not quite ready to write Ertz off yet. That's a weird offense, man. Neither one of them have the greatest matchup. Cleveland's in Pittsburgh and the Eagles play the Ravens. So
yeah,
I think if you have a roster spot that you can pick Hooper up, because you might be able to make this decision a little bit later on. Like if Dallas Goedert was back, I'd be more inclined to let Ertz go. Put it this way, I wouldn't drop Ertz for Hooper, so I'm not going to start Hooper over Ertz, if that makes any sense this week.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tough thing with Ertz is he really should be the top target and should get a fair amount of those, but man, Baltimore just, I don't know. I don't trust that matchup. I'd probably play Hooper this week, but I don't know that I'm dropping Ertz to pick up Hooper. Like if you have like you guys said, you have something you can do, then yeah. Oh, follow up from Facebook. She beat me once already, but we play again in week 10. So
okay, lose that one too, but win the rest, brother.
Can you lose 6 games and make the playoffs? I don't know, man. That'd be a tough one.
That's probably
dangerously close. Yeah. All right. So, do you think Hakeem? Oh, Jaws wants to know. Do you think Hakeem Butler can make the transition to tight end? That's a tough one.
I got a lot of dynasty shares that hope he does. I don't know. I really don't.
I mean, Jaws, that's a tough one. I would probably not be in any hurry to roster him unless the rosters are super deep. Unless there's a reason to roster him. I don't think it matters at this point, at least for now, until we see if he can develop. Then spend some fab on him if he really does. Okay, so his roster is our Facebook friend. Breeze is his quarterback. He's got Chris Carson, Jacobs, Taylor, Nuke, DJ Moore, A-Rob, Jefferson, Jonnu Smith.
Man, he's been unlucky.
Dude, you've been facing you must be facing the hot hand each week because that's a solid roster.
Claypool last week, Mixon the week before, probably had a schedule like that.
You could stand to try to improve your quarterback. Like Breeze has not been helpful.
Yeah, Breeze.
He's probably what's been killing you each week.
But he might, with Michael Thomas being back his next game, his value might go up a little.
Well, he's got his quarterback on bye this week, so he's got to do something.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew. Big game this week against Detroit or Andy Dalton.
Kirk Cousins. against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should be good. Although
Teddy.
Atlanta's now playing
Teddy, if
for a
he's
new
out there.
coach, so
I've got a lot of Kyler Murray, and he plays Dallas, so I just please.
I like when the
60-point week.
team is horrible and they fire their staff
and then they win.
and the interim head coach is the defensive coordinator against the worst defense I've ever seen. So I'm not too worried about Atlanta stepping up, especially with all the injuries they have on defense to boot. So
Yeah.
I'd be comfortable with my boy Kirk for one more week.
I would agree.
And then drop him like he's hot.
Until he gets to Detroit, he'll tear us up too. Whomever this is must know Mr. Sullivan at a personal level. By the way, Sully, best commish out there. Boom, he flexed. So
Well, I don't know. If it's referring to the Guillotine League, there was a little bit of waivers controversy with that league with the extra day. The waivers ran. Half the league didn't think it ran. So it's a bit ugly.
I don't know.
So I let him vote. And that's what's going
I don't
on.
know.
So
It just is,
I'm not that good a commissioner.
the software we use. It just is Facebook user, so I don't know who it is. It just says Facebook. So whomever they are, you have a not so secret admirer. If you're watching the Facebook stream, you probably know who it is. The next question, Brad. When are the Lions going to fire everyone? Dude, they should have been the first to fire everyone. Like, don't get me started on when they should have fired them last offseason when the new ownership took it. Well, new ownership, when the daughter got gifted the team after winning a poker bet or whatever she did. They should have fired that whole staff. I mean, it's just trash.
What's that story?
I joke around. So the Ford family they just give the team to other members of the family. So it was William Clay Ford, then his wife got it when he passed away. And the son was supposed to get it, but then she gave it to the daughter. It's just a hot mess. Like, the Ford family needs to stop owning this team is really what it comes down to.
Holy.
But
okay, so who's got worse ownership, Detroit or the Johnson and Johnson brothers in New York?
Probably the Johnsons. I mean, at least Detroit. The issue with the Detroit ownership is they tend to be way too loyal. Like, they just need. Sheila should have came in and said, "Listen, you haven't produced in 2 seasons. I'm just going to do something different. You're out." Like, that family just doesn't drop the hammer quick enough. They wait, Matt Millen era 10 years, and then everybody's miserable. We go 0-16, and you have to start over. The Johnsons, that just isn't one of them like being like an ambassador to the UK or something. Like, he's not even in America right now. He's like running the team from the Eiffel Tower or whatever.
Yeah, well, I think it's Brad Menendez crack at running the Lions.
Dude, man, it would be what do they call it? Black Monday when all the coaches get fired? Dude, I would clean that place right out. Like, you'd
be firing the receptionist who's been there for 37 years. She won't even know what's going on. Get out of here.
You brought this on yourself. Pack your bags. You're fired. I mean, because the fans deserve better. Like, I lived in the Metro Detroit area for 25 years and was always there, always downtown at games and stuff. The fans are just insane down there. They love the team, but the ownership just likes the dollar signs, and we keep giving them money. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That being said, we've digressed. So we don't have any other questions. Let's get back to the news because we've literally gotten through one piece of news in a half hour. So you've got plenty more to talk about.
Mm.
So last night was fun. We had I did some research. The second Tuesday night NFL game in league history. Not the result that I thought it would be, but while that game was going down, news came out that the New York Jets have released running back Le'Veon Bell. So my question to you both is, where do you see Le'Veon Bell signing? And then I have a follow-up question that I'll share after that if I get the chance. So Brad, where's Bell going to land?
I probably pick Bryce's pick of Miami. I hate to steal Bryce's pick, but Miami's the smartest place for him to go. Before the show, we talked about, I mentioned how Peter Schrager had, reported that kind of KC and Miami are the two places that he sees as big potential suitors. Miami makes sense, although I don't know that they're truly a competitor just because they thrashed the 49ers. Like, I still think they're rebuilding. So I would like him there. For the 2 Le'Veon Bell shares I have, that would probably be the best place for him. What about you, Bryce?
Yeah, you said it. You took it. I think Miami would be a good fit for him. Brian Flores is kind of putting that team together nicely. After week 1, they didn't look that hot. They They didn't look very good most of the season last year, but ended pretty strong. And they're transitioning in a rebuild. They're trying to form a young quarterback, and I think Le'Veon Bell will be a good addition for maybe a couple of years at a safety net for that player. His stats weren't good in New York, but he's not the problem there. You can see players that are good that leave there that have done well. I mean, look at Robbie Anderson now. He might be the best receiver on the Panthers from what it's looking like. He catches everything. He runs routes really well. He looks great. So I don't think Le'Veon Bell was the problem. He was overhyped. I will agree with that, and he didn't deserve as much money as he wanted. But Miami just makes the most sense to me. Kansas City doesn't really need a running back. I don't know why they'd really spend money on one. Miami kind of does. I mean, who is it, Myles Gaskin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He looks okay. But that team could. I feel like they could make a push to possibly go like 9-7 if they got an extra piece like Le'Veon Bell. They got receivers. They got tight end. Ryan Fitzpatrick has led teams to the playoffs before. Their defense looks nice. And Le'Veon Bell does work out there. He trains in the offseason in Miami. So
Yeah.
Familiar with the area, he might take a discount to go somewhere that he probably has a house in.
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to say in our chat, one of the folks said that Lev was in KC today. There are rumors that he was in KC, and Chris Jones, the defensive tackle for the Chiefs, did reach out to Le'Veon Bell in some way, shape, or form in the last 24 hours. So
I think that's it, to be honest. And I just think, the more as I sit here and listen to you both talk about Miami, which makes total sense. I agree with that. Side note, if it's Miami, let's hope he hurries up and does that because they play the Jets this week. So that'd be fun.
That would be cool.
But it's the Lashawn McCoy thing in Kansas City. Like, they added him as a piece when you didn't think they really needed anything. Andy Reid loves weapons, right? Look at that offense. It's just littered with weapons all over the place. The one thing that the Chiefs are having a little bit of trouble with this year is running the ball in the red zone. CEH, for whatever reason it is, he scored one touchdown this year. I think it was about a 28 or a 30-yard run that he broke. I think it was in week 1. So he hasn't been in the end zone since. I could see them adding Bell. I think the reality is whoever adds him, it's a bare minimum, nothing money deal. So Bell doesn't need any cash. He's got a ton in his pocket from the Jets. And, yeah, I don't know. That was my thought.
yeah, for sure. Jason asks, is Travis Fulgham a thing with Jackson and Jeffrey coming back soon? Bryce.
I think so. I hope so, because I spent a lot of my waiver budget on a league I'm not very deep in on him. But I was watching that game, and he actually looked good. And you've seen it. We've all seen it before of players that they finally get their opportunity and they make the most of it. He's coming off 2 pretty solid weeks. Usually, you might see a player go off for like 1 week, and then after that, they don't really do much. But it's not like Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson are young. They still have to look at the future. So why it wouldn't make sense to me to take a receiver that's coming off, 2 pretty strong performances at the wide receiver position, and just benching him behind 2 older guys that probably don't have much of a future in that organization. So I think he's a thing. I think Greg Ward is also a thing. I like him. They might be rebuilding at that wide receiver spot, and it might not be as weak as most people think. Sully?
I don't know. I don't think he is, but I have no real substance to why I don't think he is. Like, I'll be totally honest. 2 weeks ago, I was Googling who just caught the touchdown pass in the end zone for the Eagles. I had no idea who he was, no idea where he came from. Turns out he's an undrafted free agent.
Yep.
Just brought up off the practice squad. Wicked catch. And then followed up with that monster game last week. So,
Yep.
You're right. They're not deep at wide receiver. Greg Ward, the other guy you mentioned, is a converted quarterback. So,
Yeah, he looks good.
J.J. Arcega-Whiteside doesn't look like he's anything at all. Jackson, even if he comes back, realistically, is going to get hurt again before the season ends. And we have no idea if Alshon can play or not. So somebody's catching the football in Philly, so I guess it could be him. I just don't know how legit he really is. I just think it could be a different guy each week there. It could be Hightower. Is it Hightower? I think it could be Hightower next week. Right? So I just don't know.
Yeah, and Fulgham, pains me to say, was actually a Lions player. And we cut him this preseason, or right before the season started, Then he bounced to Green Bay, which he should have picked up because Green Bay really was struggling at receiver, but they liked Allen Lazard and things like that. So then he just kind of wound up falling into Philly's lap. So I liked him in Detroit. I was really surprised that they cut him so quickly because I actually think they drafted him late in the draft. He was like a 5th or 6th round pick. I don't know that he was a free agent, like a college free agent. I think we actually drafted him. I'd have to look, but the nice thing is that he was a big guy with a better than average speed and a decent catch radius, a decently wide catch radius. So I really thought that he would pan out. It almost gave me like the not so big play Kenny Galladay vibe when I watched him in practice. So I was really surprised that they didn't hold on to him longer. He could. I mean, we got to think. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't played in a long time. So when he comes back, he's got to get into game shape. It's going to be a few weeks before he really gets, rolling, if he even does. And Jackson's the same way, hasn't played in a minute, is going to need to get back up to game speed. Obviously, Jason, thank you in the chat. Jason, help me out. 6th round pick by the Lions, not 5th. 6th round pick by the Lions.
He's like our fact checker.
He is. He's the man. He's the man. Not only fun to play with in Call of Duty, but also a fact checker on the stream. So, so Fulgham is a guy that I've gone out and picked up on waivers in a few spots where I need a wide receiver help. I do it just to kind of see. So the thing that we haven't found right now with Carson Wentz, he hasn't found anybody that he can trust to throw the ball to outside of Ertz, and even that's kind of shaky. So if he really does have the trust of the quarterback, he's going to get targets. I mean, Carson Wentz ain't getting benched for Jalen Hurts this year. Like the only way that Jalen Hurts is going to be in on a regular basis is an injury. So if this guy's trusted by the quarterback, and he's going to get targets, plain as that. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's not going to be a thing this year, if ever. One catch for 37 yards just doesn't give me the warm fuzzies that the quarterback trusts him. Other than, oh crap, nobody else was open, I'll throw it to this guy that nobody's covering. That's my take on that.
So the lesson is target players cut by the Lions. So Robert Tonyan, Fulgham, guys like that. It's just like watch the Lions personnel moves and scoop those guys. Is that the lesson to be learned from all this?
The lesson to be learned is you're going to be thankful that I'm not in Canada. That's the lesson to be. Talk trash. Don't talk trash.
Welcome anytime.
I actually do have family up that. Well, not in your neck.
Come on up,
not in your neck of the woods. Manitoba.
Hey, that's where I was born.
Some of the best things come from there right here. All right, so Truman over on YouTube says, I had Dak, so I'm in need of QB. Is getting Lamar for Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder a good trade? I have Devontae, Galladay, and Godwin. Well, yeah, absolutely.
No, it isn't.
What? He's got Devontae, Galladay, and Godwin at receiver already. Why wouldn't
Why are you trading 2 top 20-ish wide receivers for a quarterback, which I'm assuming is a 1 QB league?
Because he had
for Lamar.
I'll say because he had Dak, so now he's desperate, right?
Well, sure, but go get, you could do some damage with all of those weapons. I think you're paying too much.
Think so?
For Lamar, who's having a down year-ish for him. And look, I just think that those are assets that you can. It was only week 6. There's, probably 4 or 5 weeks before your trade deadline if you have one. I wouldn't be making that trade personally.
Bryce?
I would scoop somebody off the waiver wire or do a 1-for-1 trade for a quote-unquote lesser quarterback with one of those guys.
What do you think, Bryce?
Yeah, I think you're paying too much too. If anything, I'd be moving Godwin because I don't think that they're going to use him like people think. I think Mike Evans is your guy that gets all the touchdowns for that organization, or Brady sneaks him. It seems like that's the only way they score. I'd be trying to move Godwin. Maybe wait till he comes back, has like one good game. But Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder are so consistent that in redraft leagues, that's so important. In the way I always draft my teams, that I would not want to move them for Lamar. If that guy he's got to have a good backup if he's willing to move Lamar Jackson. But I definitely think you're paying too much, even with all those players behind you, having depth, especially in this year with COVID and all the injuries that are going on. I would rather just pick up a waiver wire QB rather than get rid of that talent. Maybe try and offer something a little less. Try and do 1-for-1 like Sully suggested. That would be my advice.
There you go. 2 against 1, so do it. Don't do it. If you're not confused enough. All right, so Brian asks, what RB can I aim at giving up Michael Thomas straight up for? I still have Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Fuller, Higgins, and Kittle at tight end. So, and he also has a second part of the question. He's second waiver wire priority. Should he add Chase Claypool? So 2 questions there. What running back can you target for if you're trading Michael Thomas straight up? And then he's second in the waiver wire priority. Should he add Claypool? Mr. Sullivan.
I think I'd start with Ezekiel Elliott and just work my way down. Zeke, Adams, Cook-ish, but not right now. That'd be about it, really, to be honest. I think other than that, I would be holding on to Michael Thomas. I wouldn't trade him straight up for really anyone else. And the second part of the question is
Claypool as the second waiver wire priority.
Yeah, I think I'd hold my waiver wire priority just based on when are you starting Chase Claypool if you add him with those wide receivers? Hold on in case there's something weird that goes down. That would be my take.
Bryce.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to trade Michael Thomas for anybody straight up, but right now his value, especially if you're in redraft, more than likely his value is probably at a low right now. But I would go the McCaffrey owner first. He might be frustrated. He hasn't got to use him all year, or he might be excited that he's coming back. I would go for McCaffrey first, and then, like Sully said, work my way down. Kamara owner's not going to give it up, so maybe go try Zeke, then maybe Aaron Jones, and who did you say the last one did you use? Dalvin Cook, right? Is that the last one?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think I would do Derrick Henry or anyone else other than that.
No, yeah.
I think that's where the line stopped. I don't even think I would do Dalvin Cook, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a contender and you're really weak at running back with those wide receivers, you got to look at what would make your starting lineup better.
Right.
So you can be the opinion for that, but taking out Michael Thomas and using, I think your third best was DJ Moore or something, that's not a huge downgrade. So I agree. And then with the second waiver wire priority, I think Claypool's that big game obviously can probably never expect as big of a game, probably for the rest of his career. From that, don't get excited. Don't get too excited. But I would consider it. But if you're second, I would hold that as well. And maybe sounds like you're thin at running back. Wait for possibly another running back to get hurt and then use it on that. So
there you go. Yeah, I mean, obviously Kamara's probably out of reach, but I would offer to the the top end guys.
Yeah, I would try.
And fun side note, Kamara's not always out of reach, but in Superflex leagues, there's teams that just don't like to trade for him. Sullivan. I'm just messing around. I was a week or two back. I was sending a bunch of trade offers out because my team is
now
borderline.
You don't have to worry about coming to Canada because I'm coming down there now. After that,
yeah, you're supposed to come get Kamara because I was basically serving him up on a platter to people, but wasn't a good enough platter.
Poop sandwich.
That's it. Alvin Kamara, if you're watching this, Rob Sullivan in Canada said you're a poop sandwich. All right, just kidding. Not really true. Let's see here. So, Truman asks, if Fitz is available, should I add him? If you mean Larry Fitzgerald?
No, so Truman's the guy trading for Lamar. So that's your move. Pick up Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely grab him. Yeah.
Crazy Ryan Fitzpatrick stat. So since he's been inserted into the lineup for the Dolphins as of week 7 last year, he's a number 3 quarterback in fantasy, including games this year and last year.
Done. Make it happen, Truman. There's your deal. So, there you go. That's it. Get him. All right. So we got a dynasty question from Wilson Hensley on YouTube. Thoughts about P. Ryan? So obviously Lev Bell gone. LaMichael P. Ryan's time to shine.
Nobody's going to shine. Absolutely.
I don't know.
There's a bunch of turds.
I threw some darts at Ty Johnson on my waiver wires in my deep dynasty leagues. Sticking with the theme of former Lions, I'm feeling pretty good about those ads. So No, I don't know. I think Piron's going to get a shot, but I think the reality is if Le'Veon Bell can't produce in that backfield, who is? Like that backfield's a mess. That offensive line is a mess. Like guys are, and I think it was Bryce who said it, like the guy gets 3 or 4 yards just to lose 3 or 4 yards. So that's a tough assignment for anyone.
Absolutely. So I think P. Ryan will obviously be kind of one of the first chances, but isn't Frank Gore still there? Like
Frank Gore's the man.
Adam Gase loves Frank Gore.
Adam Gase.
They're throwing him wheel routes. They're throwing him wheel routes.
That's a slow spinning wheel, man. Slow spinning wheel. It's like
time over the sundial.
All right. So back to news and notes. So we've gotten through
all right.
First two. Dak, Lev Bell. What else you got?
My second part to the Le'Veon Bell question was, when do you think Adam Gase is fired by the New York Jets?
You mean he isn't already? Huh.
No, I checked. He's still there.
Getting rid of Lev Bell made me think, man, is Adam Gase running this team?
Yes. That's the scary part. I think he makes it through the season, but I don't know after that. What do you think, Bryce?
He didn't like Lev Bell. When there were rumors or something that he made comments that because Le'Veon Bell got signed before Adam Gase became the head coach, I believe. And Adam Gase came right after and was apparently upset that they spent so much money on that running back.
And if you remember correctly,
if
you remember correctly, Gase then pushed the then Jets general manager out the door, and Adam Gase hired his general manager. So there's a lot of, if you're a Jets fan, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of nasty vibes that Adam Gase is indeed running that organization. And we've already talked about an absentee ownership. So maybe he doesn't get fired at all. Dun, dun, dun.
What a nightmare.
Darnold retires after PTSD is taken over because he just keeps seeing ghosts and
I guess traded.
Darnold's getting traded because they're getting Trevor Lawrence. They're going to go 0-16. It's either Trevor Lawrence is going to end up in New York. It just depends on which team. Those teams are so bad that they're going to be fighting for picks 1 and 2. It seems like, and Sam Darnold is the guy that I think I would love to see go somewhere else.
Me too.
He's not the problem. There's a lot of even I've talked to some Jets fans that think that he might end up in Pittsburgh one day.
I've heard
at the end of the season, maybe let Ben Roethlisberger do one more year and then Sam Darnold take over. I think that'd be a perfect spot for him where he could actually thrive because he does not look bad. He's just in a horrible, horrible situation. When Jamison Crowder's your best receiver, your football team is not going to be that great, even though Jamison Crowder does end up playing well. But it's just that organization is such a dumpster fire. I'm just so glad to be a Patriots fan.
Brad,
when's Gase get the hammer or the axe, I should say?
I still think. I mean, I still see it happening at some point, either during the season or the first Monday after the season's over. There's nothing that gives me confidence that this team's moving in the right direction. So if your team is sitting in neutral, you keep getting rid of pieces, but not really getting anything out of the situation. Like the only concern I have is Gase has gotten a lot of draft capital here recently. So I'm wondering if he's kind of pushing that narrative to ownership. Like, hey, I'm rebuilding this thing. I've got you all these picks for players like Jamal Adams and things like that. And, that's my worry is if he's kind of building that narrative and the ownership buys it, like Gase could continue to ruin his team.
That's kind of what John Gruden did, but it's working out for the Raiders. So
yeah, but John Gruden had a Super Bowl before.
Right. He's not, but I'm saying he could probably use that as an example for the organization. But the organization could also look like Adam Gase is terrible. Let him go 0-16. We fire him. We got all this draft capital. Let some newer coach, possibly that looks promising from a better organization, take over and apply what they learned at that one. So it's also another thought.
I'm playing, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm playing Ryan Tannehill film for Adam Gase every week. Like, that's a prime example, right? Like, who thought Ryan Tannehill was going to be a decent quarterback? He lands in Tennessee, and all of a sudden he gets the start, and look out. Like, I guess the kid could play after all. So I like Sam Darnold a lot, and I really want him to get a shot with its free Sam Darnold is my new campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. All right, so what else you got?
So Monday night, we had the Chargers play the New Orleans Saints in the first post-Austin Eckler game for the Chargers. And Justin Jackson saw 58% of the team's rushing attempts and saw 19% of Justin Herbert's targets. And your boy Joshua Kelly saw 42% of the rushing share, so not a lot different, and 3% of the target share. Now, Jackson looked like the better back on Monday night. Who is the running back to own if you have to own a Chargers running back? Brad.
I obviously am still going Josh Kelly, but Justin Jackson. I mean, Justin Jackson, we knew that the team liked him, and he looks good from time to time. But the concern for me with him still is going to be in the back of my mind is when does he get hurt? He always seems to get these really ticky-tack injuries that keep him down. So I'll stick with Kelly, and he may not get above 50% of the action, but at least I know what I'm getting with him. Bryce, what do you think?
Well, so last week I thought it was going to be Josh Kelly, the Josh Kelly show, but I take it back. I was wrong. I think Justin Jackson is going to be getting more touches the next week as well. He looks better with the ball in his hands. He looks more explosive. I think it's just with rookie running backs, they might have to get that confidence. And it just seems like they're not – they know they're not the man at whatever school they were before the NFL, and maybe they look hesitant, like they're afraid to make mistakes. And these veteran players just, they see a hole and they go through it. Justin Jackson looked way more explosive. He looked like the better pass-catching back. As a guy that drafted Eckler in a lot of leagues, I'm happy to see kind of a little bit of a struggle with Josh Kelly, because I think when he comes back, he easily takes his role and doesn't lose any touches. If anything, I think Justin Jackson takes away from Josh Kelly's role in the future, but I would be way more comfortable having Justin Jackson. Solely?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I agree. I was totally thinking this is going to be a Josh Kelly day. Started him in a lot of spots. I had a couple of really ugly lineups where I threw Justin Jackson in just because I needed to fill it, and it turned out to work. It worked out great. Watching that game, it seemed like Jackson was always moving when he got the ball, and Kelly wasn't.
Right.
It was just weird. So he's a rookie. I think he's going to be fine. Obviously, dynasty-wise, it's Kelly, but this is a redraft show, so I think it's Justin Jackson. But they're on bye, and then they get the Jags. So don't drop either one of them because they could both have a really good game against Jacksonville in Week 8. I just think it's slightly Justin Jackson right now.
Okay. All right, so got some questions. Kellis Talks asks, it's PPR league. 6 seed makes playoffs. Close race. He likes his matchup. Okay, so start to Allen Robinson, A.J. Brown, Woods, Shark, or DJ Moore. So you're starting 2 of those guys. So 2 wide receivers here. Mr. Sullivan, who are you starting?
I think you're starting the first 2. I think you're starting Robinson and AJ.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I mean, DJ Moore is the other one that I've been like, oh. I mean, but Woods is that's a tough one. I'll probably go the first 2.
That's a good – to steal a line from Bryce, that's a good problem to have.
All right, Bryce, who are you taking?
Yeah, Allen Robinson's a no-brainer. If you look at his stats when Foles took over, I think he can be in contention to be wide receiver 1 this year. But yeah, I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. I thought I was saying last year that he is really close to being elite. He and DK Metcalf are going to have fantastic second years, so I'm going to go with A.J. Brown then.
Sure. Jaws is seeing over on Twitter that Benjamin Albright reported that Lev Bell's considering between 5 teams. The Chiefs are mentioned first, then the Bears, Raiders, Pats, and Dolphins in the tweet. So
Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders.
Why are the Pats? Why are the Pats?
Love John Gruden.
Patriots and Lev Bell.
Any free agent that has any sort of hype behind them always gets linked to the Patriots, and it's when have we ever paid a running back? And that's unless he goes.
Well, you're not going to pay this one either, though.
The Jets are paying him for you.
It's like your quarterback, right?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
cheap.
I don't know. Cam Newton might get a deal after this, though. I wouldn't be surprised.
Nope, he might.
Yep. Somebody out there,
With
Pam.
New England. No, with New England, I think they might pay.
All right, so Randy Page says, great show. Thanks, Randy. Should I flex in Antonio Gibson or Hollywood Brown? Sully.
I am starting to buy into Gibson. You know, this ties into my last news and notes that I'm just going to steal stats from and not ask you guys. Gibson started off with a 31% rush share in week 1. He climbed up to a 92% rush share last week. His target share has risen from 7% to 18%. So he's more and more involved in this offense all the time. Hollywood's really hit and miss, and more miss than hit. And he's also a guy that I'm just waiting to get injured. The guy's been injured every year. He's played football since middle school. So I'm going to go with Gibson this week. Flex him in. Bryce?
I'm still going to go with Hollywood Brown. He is, kind of a hit or miss, but 3 out of the 5 games he's been pretty productive. So, he's what I would consider a boomer, kind of a boomer bust player. But I could see him starting to, develop into a more consistent player. So I'm still going to go with Hollywood Brown in that offense. Right?
Man, that's such a tough one because the matchup against the Eagles is pretty juicy. Like as we saw last week, the Eagles' corners can't keep up with them. I'd probably Washington has a good matchup. I'd probably go Gibson just because I'm confident that there's more. He's getting the ball more.
That's my take.
I mean that's probably where I'm at with it. Is even if he isn't getting a ton of passes, he's getting the ball more than Hollywood, so there's more opportunity for something. So I don't hate either. Like I think the Hollywood matchup, like he could easily his stat line this week could be 4 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like I mean it's
right.
Like Philly's defense is kind of leaky right now. So, but I'd still go Gibson just because we know we're gonna get he's gonna get a heavy amount of rushing touches, and then he's going to get something in the passing game. So give me that, and either way, I think you'd be all right. So, okay, so we are up against it. We're hitting the time here. If you got any other questions, get them in. Mr. Sullivan, you have any other news and notes that are pertinent that you want to bring up before we close out?
No, that last question was awesome. I stole all my stats from my question. I got nothing.
Good. All right. Okay. Well. That's it. So if you guys have questions, we've got Discord. We've got a Discord server where we talk fantasy, we talk anything, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, we talk gaming, we talk movies, all the things. Facebook community, if you got questions, you can put them out there. You can catch us on Twitter. Obviously, you see Mr. Sullivan and myself's handles at the bottom. Bryce is over on Facebook. Hit us up. We've got all sorts of content, all sorts of stuff going on here on YouTube. If you guys have enjoyed the video, enjoyed this live stream, like it, the notifications, subscribe, do all those things so you can stay up to date every time we go live. In the off season, it's basically nightly. During the season, we drop some of the other IDP and Devi content throughout the week. But we're here to help. So find us, ask questions, let everybody know, tell everybody. We'll help them out too. Until next time, for Bryce and Rob, I'm Brad. Thank you guys and take care. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace.